Good morning, everybody, on the streaming platforms of Facebook Live, Twitter, and YouTube. Another sad, awful morning in America on the heels of yet another mass shooting. This one taking the lives of, at last count, 19 children in Uvalde. The latest numbers that I have, 19 children dead, 2 teachers, and the 18-year-old gunman. We are a sports talk show, so we will talk sports, but as we learned from Steve Kerr, Golden State Warriors head coach Steve Kerr's comments yesterday, there is certainly an intersection between sports and our lives in America when something as horrific as that happens. Tracy Bogert says, where was the good guy with a gun? They'll probably ask that at the NRA convention in Houston on Friday. They'll probably talk about arming teachers. Good morning from Dallas, John Williams. What is up? And good morning, Tracy Bogert. 7 people in here right now. If you say something in the comments, I see who you are and I say hello. So if I don't say hello to you, it's because I don't see your name. It's one of the things I wish they did here on this platform. There's Dennis LaRue. Dennis LaRue, how are you, sir? Dennis LaRue, an Air Force veteran, a great life coach, business coach, puts out great content, great video. Always good to see you in here, Dennis. I'm a big fan. Yeah, I don't know how they do that on Friday, Tracy. And the governor is going to Uvalde today. And then that's Wednesday. And then he's supposed to speak at that NRA convention along with Cornyn and Cruz. And the former president, Donald Trump, is one of the keynote speakers, I understand. So that'll be on the heels of this. Does the NRA, and again, it's a convention, everybody's booked, hotels are booked, people have made travel reservations. So I already know the answer to that question, but does the NRA have the sensitivity to, delay or postpone that convention? I doubt they do. I think that's the answer. So, I can do that. Thanks for the reminder. Jeremy reminded me of something. All right. So, follow Dennis LaRue on Facebook and other social media. Steve Duraco, the original rock, the original Italian stallion. Good morning. Gil Mata, good morning. Gil, you like the rest of us, our thoughts are with the people of Uvalde this morning. It's not easy to do a sports talk show on a morning like this, but it's our job. Tracy Bogert writes, I'm an 8th generation Texan gun owner, grew up hunting and fishing. I am a former dues-paying member of the National Rifle Association. They are a danger to society, so are Abbott and the rest of the Republican cohorts, his Republican cohorts. Have you noticed the more access to guns, the more mass shootings there are? Yeah, I heard this morning this guy on his 18th birthday, the shooter, just turned 18 a few days ago in the month of May and purchased the weapons legally in Uvalde at a gun store on his 18th birthday. Oh, God, Ralph. Ralph says, sad morning. Both teachers were my cousin's best friends. Most of the pictures taken were of them or with them. Had relatives in that school. I'm from the area, so it hits home really hard. Wow, Ralph. I can't imagine. The rest of us who don't have a direct connection to Uvalde, it hits us hard. But my God, when you're tied to that community and people and Good morning, Hector Gomez. Good morning, Gabe Quintanilla. Here we come. Do a little radio show this morning. Here we go. It'll be a little different this morning.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
Good morning, Maria. Good morning, Anthony.
Now, Chris Duel.
It's a Wednesday morning in America. Like a lot of previous Wednesday mornings in America, we're kind of getting used to the feeling of a morning in America after a horrific tragedy, after a horrific mass shooting of fellow American citizens by an American citizen. Yet, this morning is a little different and a little more horrific because so many children were slaughtered in Uvalde. At last count, 19 children, 2 teachers, and the gunman dead at last count. There are several injured in hospitals across Texas. My understanding, and I saw some messages last night, some of those injured children and adults have been taken to San Antonio, to University Hospital. I saw a gentleman whom I know posting that there were victims at University Hospital in San Antonio who have been transported there. We are a sports talk show. That's our job. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Kolok is our Soundscape Stylist. We will do our job. We will talk sports today. But there are moments in life when life and death intersect the world of sports. And very sadly, this is one of those moments. If you haven't heard it, we'll play it for you a little bit later. Steve Kerr, the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, before last night's game 4 in Dallas, and we'll get into the sports angle of it. Mavericks win and stay alive. They beat the Golden State Warriors 119-109. But before the game, Steve Kerr made a very emotional and impassioned statement. And I think a lot of you know that Steve Kerr's father was gunned down, was the victim of gun violence when he was head of American University in Beirut, back when Steve Kerr was a basketball player at the University of Arizona alongside Sean Elliott. So we'll hear from Steve Kerr. It's one of those mornings where the atrocities of the world intersect the world of sports. We won't stay on it throughout the morning. We'll probably bring it up here and there because we can't avoid it. But we'll talk sports. We'll talk NBA playoffs. Houston Astros get back on the winning track last night at Minute Maid Park. They beat the Cleveland Guardians, still getting used to that, 7-3. So we'll talk NBA playoffs, NBA draft. We will talk NFL as God intended. We will talk Major League Baseball. We'll talk college sports. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, will join us at 8:05, and you are invited along the way. As I mentioned, it's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Shannon, we'll dive into sports, but it's kind of hard to dive right into sports on a morning like this.
Yeah. Another one and one so very close to home. And, you turn on the news last night and, you get what you expected, which is just nonstop coverage of the situation that unfortunately is ever changing with the number of those affected. Being here in Houston, there was a woman on the local news that they kept speaking with. Her niece was in that school, and at 11 years old was assisting her fellow classmates who had been shot. And she had taken on some shrapnel, but was not shot entirely. And just 11 years old, Chris. It's hard to find words.
It is. Gosh. A lot of people have said this, and it's so true, Shannon. As we all know, school, especially for elementary school kids, school is supposed to be your sanctuary. If there's in addition to the home, if there's another sacred place for children to be cared for and nurtured and nourished and be absolutely safe, it's an elementary school. And that, I mean, we have mass shootings all the time. Sadly, they're horrific. Something has to be done. We're not having a gun debate. We don't do that here, and we're not going to do that. But I think whatever your stand on guns, and this is Texas, a lot of Second Amendment people who fervently believe in it and are responsible gun owners. And God bless them all, and God bless you all. But I think responsible citizens can't live with carnage like this. I was thinking about this, Shannon. Innocent men, women, and children are being slaughtered in Ukraine, and that's a fact. But I mean, look at Buffalo earlier. Just a few days ago, that shopping center in Buffalo, and again, ironically, that was an 18-year-old gunman. Across the country, seemingly every day, but every other day or every 3 days, there's a mass shooting, and we're not at war like Ukraine is, being invaded by an aggressor, but there's still gun violence in our streets, and innocent men, women, and children are being gunned down across this country at places we think we should feel safe. There was a woman, Shannon, before your time on this radio station, Ticket 760, and she was a producer for the Mike Taylor Show, and she was a cool kind of a correspondent for the Mike Taylor Show, and Mike knew her well, and she wound up moving to Denver to pursue a career in sports broadcasting, and she was in that theater in Aurora, Colorado, watching Batman the night it dropped a number of years ago when that gunman came in and shot up that theater, and she was one of the fatalities. And it happens in churches, it happens in elementary schools, it happens in movie theaters, it happens in malls, it happens in workplaces. It's just mind blowing. And whatever your stance on, the right to bear arms in this country, and I respect that and I appreciate that. We got to do something. And smart, concerned, responsible Americans have to find a way to address this problem. It is. I saw a statistic yesterday, Shannon. Mass shootings since pre-pandemic, like 2017, are up something like 90+%. So they are up a percentage since the pandemic. It was interesting. During the pandemic, they went down because people were sequestered. So that was one of the benefits of sequestering this country during the pandemic. But now they're back with a vengeance, and it's very, very sad.
Yeah. Again, still struggling to find words. And, you mentioned school and the sanctity that is school, especially for those younger children in elementary school. I mean, the last week of school for most kids in the state of Texas. And, that's a time of celebration. That's a time of parties and movies and all of the fun stuff. You made it to the end of the year. I hate that this is how it ended for that area, and obviously Texas as a whole affected by this.
Jeremy Kolok, and we're going to dive into sports. If people who tune in for sports, we get it. It's our job. It's what we do. And we're not going to stay on this a lot longer. But, we've gotten Shannon's thoughts. You got my thoughts. Jeremy Kolok, I want to get your thoughts on a sad, sad morning like this.
Yeah, a horrific day yesterday, Chris, and morning this morning. It's insane to me that we keep living like this, because it's preventable. It's something that I'm tired of. I think a lot of people are really, really tired of having days like yesterday and days like today. And it feels like the nightmare that will never end, right? We feel kind of helpless about it. I'm tired of the same thing, the same cycle, thoughts and prayers, and then we move on, and then it happens again. I'm tired of that. And obviously there was a heavy air over San Antonio yesterday. I mean, you could feel it. This was right in our backyard, and I it's at this, that was right in our backyard, but it's like this happens anywhere now. It could happen anywhere because of the frequency that this happens. And it's so frustrating because we know that this doesn't happen anywhere else on earth. I mean, wherever you stand on the debate, it is unfathomable to me that you can watch children being slaughtered over and over. This isn't the first time, and not just have an overwhelming desire for something to change. It is unconscionable to me, and it's Chris, like you said, we'll move forward and do our little sports thing, but I can't believe they played that basketball game last night. I think we should have postponed that basketball game last night, in my opinion.
That's a great point. I think Steve Kerr would have signed off on that. It was in the same state as Steve Kerr mentioned in his comments, and we'll hear them a little bit later. That it was 400 miles away from that arena in Dallas. And yeah, I'm with you. I do want to mention, I mentioned the former employee of Ticket 760 who was a victim of gun violence in Aurora, Colorado, in that theater. Her name was Jessica Gawai. Her radio name was Jessica Redfield. I've in the aftermath of her death, I interviewed her mom a couple of times. Her mom is now an activist trying to stop these mass shootings across the country. But and Mike Taylor, and maybe he'll speak to that later this afternoon. I think Mike's on vacation this week. I may be wrong. But Mike knew her, Jessica Redfield, Jessica Gawai, very, very well. And Mike Taylor has experienced something, sadly. We're all, if you haven't experienced it yet, you will. If this keeps up, someone maybe someone you love, maybe you will be gunned down in a mass shooting in this country unless we do something. So we'll hear from Steve Kerr a little bit later. And again, for those of you who tuned in for sports, we understand and we appreciate your patience. We just, like the rest of this country, Shannon, Jeremy, and I just have to process this morning as we go to work. You all may be going to your jobs this morning, and as you have your first cup of coffee, which I have in my hand, and you talk with your coworkers, it's hard to dive right into work and not talk about what happened, as Jeremy said to me earlier this morning, in our own backyard, essentially here in San Antonio. All right, let's dive into some sports. It's what we do. Shannon Salty Sweeney. First of all, you may be the Nostradamus of sports talk radio. You have so far picked each of the winning horses in the first two rounds of the Kentucky Derby. The most notable, the 80-1 long shot in the Kentucky Derby, the Lucky Strike. Now, before this series began between the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks, you said, even though you're a Mavericks fan, you said Warriors in 5. And I kind of gave you some crap. It's like, come on, you're a Mavericks fan. Have a little delusion. When my Spurs are in a playoff series, I'm delusional. I believe no matter what. You said you were firm, and you said Warriors in 5. And we talked about it yesterday, Shannon. If the Mavericks could get a win at home in Game 4, then probably I think we would all expect Golden State would go back to the Chase Center in San Francisco and win this thing in Game 5. Well, Nostradamus, it happened. Luka Doncic, another big night, nearly a triple-double, 30 points, 14 rebounds, 9 assists. And your Dallas Mavericks, Shannon, beat the Golden State Warriors 119-109. Your thoughts?
Yeah. If anyone's delusional, I think it's Luca at this point, who after winning that game last night said he still believed that they could win the series. You know, they had a great night. And as you said, Luca just, it feels weird saying he just had 30 points. We're used to seeing him put up 40 a lot throughout these playoffs, but he had some help. And it's not very often that you see the opponent of the Warriors outscore them in the 3-point category, but the Warriors just 10 of 28 for 35% from beyond the arc, where the Mavericks were 20 of 43. So that really assisted them in their 119-109 win last night. And I don't know how the delay played into that. Some may argue that was just weird and threw everyone off their rhythm, but there was a leaky roof situation and the baseline was getting wet. We had to suspend things for a little bit. And of course, all the rage on social media this morning is Mark Cuban apparently can't afford a good roof for the American Airlines Center.
That's funny. And it is amazing to me. These, like the American Airlines Center, state-of-the-art NBA facility, and it can have a leaky roof. I mean, it's just, it happens. I'll never forget, and Spurs fans will never forget, one of the first Spurs games ever in the Alamo Dome, one of the water cannons accidentally shot off and just drenched an entire section of fans. Oops. Yeah, and it could have been the very first game in the Alamo Dome, in fact. And
SeaWorld's on the other side of town.
Yeah, boom, exactly. And that, I'll never forget that footage. It made the 4-letter network that night. The Spurs, to their credit, paid for the dry cleaning bill of all of the fans who got soaked that night. So, all right, we got a lot to talk about all morning long, and we will hear from Steve Kerr. In fact, we'll probably do that just after the top of the hour at 7. Very emotional, very impassioned, and I think you should. I was just walking down the hall. WOAI is playing the Steve Kerr. You know, here he is, a sports guy, but he's nationally and globally recognized. And again, his father, a victim of gun violence in Beirut, Lebanon, back when Steve Kerr was a basketball player at the University of Arizona. His teammate, as I mentioned, was Sean Elliott. So we'll hear from Steve Kerr, but a lot of sports. It's what we do. So we'll talk NBA playoffs tonight. Boston, Miami, a game 5. Somebody's getting a big advantage going up 3-2 in that series. We'll talk about that. Astros back on the winning track yesterday. We'll get into that as well. And lots of NFL talk, because nothing's better than football. And I can use a little NFL talk to get my mind off the uglier things that we're contemplating on this Wednesday morning in America. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Kolok makes the show go. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, at 8:05. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Louisa, good morning. Let's see who's in here this morning. John Williams was the first in. Tracy Bogert, Dennis LaRue, Steve Duraco, the original Rock, the original Italian Stallion. Gil Mata, welcome in. Tracy Bogert. I read this earlier, but for the people now in here, Ralph Balderas writes, sad morning. Both teachers were my cousin's best friends. Most of the pictures taken were of them or with them. Had relatives in that school. I'm from the area, so it hits home really hard. And I replied to Ralph, several minutes ago, so many of us are shocked and saddened by this. Somebody from that community like Ralph is, who knows people there who were affected or lost their lives. Just awful. So sad. Hector Gomez, Gabe Quintanilla, Maria Wetter, Anthony Del Toro. I saw your message late yesterday. And we did mention to you on the air or on this broadcast, I know you buried a grandparent yesterday. So we're certainly thinking about you and sending prayers to you and your family yesterday and this morning as well. Gabe Quintanilla, great man, great judge, GQ. His judge nickname, Gabe the Hammer Quintanilla. We need Gabe Quintanilla back on the bench. Gabe says, please donate blood. Wow, I got a message to that effect last night. I'm going to Thank you for reminding me, Gabe. I need to mention that on the air. Sam Tobias, the pride of HEB. James Rippey really liked Steve Kerr's comments last night. We will play those comments for you. Fonzie J. Rodriguez, welcome in. Fonzie is a Dodgers and a Lakers fan, but we forgive him. And we like him anyway. Let's see. Jesse Bratton, welcome in, Jesse. Jesse says, with a heavy heart, I wish everyone a good morning. Prayers for the people of Uvalde. Wes Perkins. Yeah, Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, the late, great Jimmy Parks Jr., a great friend of mine, was from Uvalde. Sam says, on YouTube last night, Mike Taylor talked about Jessica Redfield. So I'm glad he paid tribute to her. Jason Paniagua, welcome. Oh, God. Elliot says, my daughter goes to Robb Elementary, and I teach in Uvalde and was friends with some of the victims. Just so heartbroken. Uvalde strong. Elliot, I can't even imagine. I can't imagine that level of pain and grief and horror that those families are going through. Luisa Alanis, welcome. All right. I am going to grab some more coffee. Let's see here. I've got to record some commercials a little bit later in the show. Thank you, Sam Tobias. And I do have the Stratotanker. It's got to be, 72 ounce? I don't even know. It's huge. Let's assume it could be 84 ounces. My mega ounce Cody brand HEB Stratotanker O coffee. Cody, because I work in radio and I can't afford Yeti. Thank you very much. Woo. Woo. I said this earlier. There's Dennis LaRue, Air Force veteran. To Dennis, to every veteran, thank you for your service to our country. Dennis, now a life coach, a business coach, an entrepreneur, a motivational and inspirational speaker. I highly recommend you follow him on Facebook and social media. Great guy. Love it when a Dennis LaRue or a Louise Locker, Elf Louise, sometimes comes in here. They're not every day. And again, a lot of you, Tracy Bogert, Sam Tobias, Jason Paniagua, Louisa. I do appreciate the everyday people who come in here. You mean a lot to us. Thank you. So yeah, whenever I say, ooh, Dennis LaRue's in here, or ooh, Elf Louise is in here, or Gabe Quintanilla, it's like that is in no way diminishing our appreciation for everybody. I mean, and we probably appreciate the regular peeps even more because you're in here regularly. Thank you, Maria. Okay, I got to do, and I'm not ready for it yet, but I got to read a Diamonds Direct script. I've got to record 3 Diamonds Direct commercials. So I need to I need to familiarize myself with the script a little bit. I think I can do that in 60 seconds if I cook. Yeah, Tracy mentioned this earlier, and that's going to be very interesting in the state of Texas. On Friday, the NRA convention, I believe, is in Houston. And former President Donald Trump is a keynote speaker, as are Governor Greg Abbott, Senator Ted Cruz, and Senator John Cornyn. Their comments in the aftermath of Uvalde will be very interesting. Governor Greg Abbott, I understand, is visiting Uvalde today. Joe Garcia, what is up? Good morning, Joe. Tracy says, I spent 15 years as a probation officer. I know all about guns and gun violence and mental health. I had a mental health caseload. I know more than most people about the subject. Yeah. Tracy, my wife is an attorney and often works on CPS cases. Sometimes representing the rights of the children involved, sometimes one of the parents. And sadly, and this speaks to what you just wrote, sadly, sometimes there are mental health issues involved, which just complicates things and makes them much more difficult, as you know from your experience, and much more sad. Lucinda Sullivan, good morning. I lift this coffee cup to you. Lucinda has been a big force in organizing the Bill Schoening. Now, he'll be with us at 8:05 this morning. In fact, we're almost back, so I may not have time to put it up there. But the Bill Schoening book signing is a week from tomorrow. There it is. So, in fact, I do believe Lucinda created that artwork, graphic poster. June 2nd, 4 to 6. I am planning on being there. My X Factor, that week I am the caregiver for my mom, who is 98 and turns 99 later this summer. So I have to, my first priority on that Thursday afternoon is my mom. But if I can break away, I will definitely be there. Books, it's at the Barn Door Restaurant. Book signing from 4 to 5:15. And then 5:15 to 6, Bill going to pull out the guitar, sing some songs, tell some tales. So I would highly recommend that. And Lucinda is one of the big people who put that together, which is cool. Here we come. Next segment.
Back. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9760.
Stevie Nicks, what a great voice. Fleetwood Mac. I haven't heard Fleetwood Mac on this show in a long time. Jeremy Kolok, as always, just will surprise you with his musical and classic rock chops. Thank you, Jeremy, your Soundscape stylist. He is also our chief meteorologist. Apparently, this rain that we had overnight going to clear up, and we're going to get some sunshine this afternoon. So we can look forward to that. We can use some sunshine across the great state of Texas this morning. Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Before we dive into our high five play of the day, let's set the table and tell you what's coming your way. We will just after the top of the hour. It is very powerful, and I think we should play Golden State Warriors head coach Steve Kerr's comments in their entirety. Again, he speaks from experience. He lost a father to gun violence, although it happened in Beirut, Lebanon, when his father was the head of American University in Beirut. But As Steve Kerr knows, a tragedy like this will affect you and your family for the rest of your lives. So I just think, and again, he's one of the biggest figures in sports today. So if he's speaking on this horrible tragedy in Uvalde, which is emblematic of what's happening all too often across our country, I just think we should listen in. And so we'll do that just after the top of the hour. Just after 8 o'clock, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening, will join us. I was telling people on the live video feed, because one of the organizers, Lucinda Sullivan, is joining us this morning on the live feed. A week from tomorrow, June 2nd, is Bill Schoening's official book signing and launch of his new book. We'll talk with Bill about that at 8:05, but to let you know now, it'll be at the Barn Door Restaurant in San Antonio, North New Braunfels, just inside Loop 410, close to Nacogdoches. Get out. It's going to be, he's not only going to sign books, he's going to sing. He's got a guitar. He's bringing a fellow musician with him, and he'll tell tales, and nobody can tell tales like raconteur Bill Schoening. So that's, we look forward to Bill at 8:05, and we'll certainly talk NBA playoffs, including Shannon's Dallas Mavericks prevailing last night to stay alive in that series against the Golden State Warriors, 119-109. That series now 3-1, moving back to San Francisco for Game 5. Miami hosting Boston tonight in a Game 5 in a Eastern Conference final that is tied 2-2. So we'll get into all that. You can dial us up at any time on the phone line, 800-707-9760. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, if you're just joining us, you might not have heard, but Shannon, Jeremy, and I, expressed our thoughts and our sorrow over what happened in Uvalde yesterday. The mass shooting at an elementary school, latest count, 19 children dead, 2 teachers. The gunman is dead. I've seen a number of people on our live video feed who have ties to the Uvalde community who knew some of the victims, which is just so very tragic and so sad. If you would like to express your thoughts on that or anything in sports, but on a morning like this, if you want to express your thoughts on what happened in Uvalde, go to the talkback feature on the free iHeartRadio app. There's a little microphone button. You press that. You got 30 seconds. You can leave your thoughts, and we get it instantly. We will play your thoughts on the air this morning because we want to hear from you as well on a morning like this. I've always looked at, talk radio, whether it's sports talk, news talk. I see it kind of a town hall meeting of the airwaves, an opportunity for us to share and learn from one another and how we're getting through a day like this. So we would love to hear from you on the talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. All right. That's all coming at you. A lot of show between now and 9. And again, it's a sports talk show. We know that. It's our job. So we will talk sports. In fact, let's do that right now. It's time for the High Five play of the day, appropriately sponsored by High Five, 2 locations in the Austin area. Someday there will be one in San Antonio. I have offered a trade of a Las Palapas to Austin for a High Five to San Antonio. I'm still waiting for the return phone call on that. I'm sure they're busy. And today, they may call me today. It could happen. The High Five play of the day, appropriately sponsored by High Five, 2 locations in Austin. They got everything. Big screen TVs everywhere. Watch all the sports you want. Great food, great drinks, food specials, drink specials. A gazillion games you can play, from bowling to laser tag to axe throwing, zombie dodgeball, and more. Find out for yourself. Get into one of the 2 Austin area High Five locations. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, who are we giving a high five out to on this Wednesday morning?
Well, he's a man who's received a couple of high fives from us already, but I think he deserves another one after his group share over the weekend. DeJounte Murray took to Twitter first to tweet, 10 years ago, I was in juvenile, and that whole month in there, I told the guards I'm going to get out and change my life and never be back, and they told me I will be right back. 10 years later, those same guards are asking for pictures and my autograph. He then shared that tweet over on Instagram as well with a picture of his juvenile mugshot, a photo of him graduating and then a photo of him getting drafted and being an all-star, and went along to say, I just want to motivate and inspire the ones worldwide with no hope or guidance. They never try to listen to us and understand where we come from and what we've been through. They just label us based off of being a product of our environment and having no other choice. Thank God for watching over me always and forever. If you're reading this, I believe in you, and you can make it out of any situation you are going through. DeJounte Murray, always one to inspire, and do so practicing what he preaches. What a guy to root for the San Antonio organization, and a guy that I hope we see in the black and silver for many, many years to come, Chris.
Totally agree, Shannon. When I saw that, I just love DeJounte Murray. And here's another reason to love him. Shannon, as you document, as a kid, he was arrested. He was in juvenile custody. So many kids at that point go in the wrong direction. And for him to have the resolve and say, I'm going to turn my life around, and then to do it. And he did it. And he's one of the best players in the NBA. Went to his first All-Star game last year, as we know. And now, most importantly to me, Shannon and Jeremy, to use his life as an example. Charles Barkley once said famously, I am not a role model. I disagreed with Charles Barkley then. I disagree with him now. I remember when I was a kid, my favorite football player was Roger Staubach. You know, Roger went to the Naval Academy. So I thought, wow, maybe I could go to the Air Force Academy. It had an impact on me. I wound up going to the Air Force Academy. DeJounte Murray is a role model for kids, and especially if there's a kid in trouble. And you know, when you, as a kid, you do something wrong and you get arrested for it, there is, in addition to the legal penalty, there is shame associated with that. And there are people who will then start telling you you're a bad kid and you are never going to amount to anything in this life. You're just going to go down a wrong path and we'll see you in prison someday, kid. And DeJounte Murray is an example now. And I can't think of many more in sports who are public about their life like this. DeJounte Murray is an example, Shannon and Jeremy, of a guy who's went the wrong way as a kid and turned his life around. And I love that he's putting this out there on his social media. Because, I mean, how many kids follow DeJounte Murray on social media? I'll bet a lot. And for him to show them there's a way out. You can turn your life around. You can find your vein of gold. You can have self-discipline, and you can make yourself something very, very special. Shannon, that's one of my favorite high fives. And I've always loved DeJounte Murray. The more I know about him, the more I love him. And as you said, the Spurs organization, just so lucky to have DeJounte Murray. I mean, a long line of great Spurs character people: Sean Elliott, David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Avery Johnson, Manu Ginobili. The list goes on and on and on and on. And the latest big-time dude to be not only a great player, but a character person is DeJounte Murray. I'm not hearing you. There you go.
He mentioned in that tweet the guards who, at the time when he was in juvie, saying, you're going to be right back here, you're not going to make it. And now they're asking for his autograph and picture. Do you think and if it was you in that situation, would you give your autograph and take your picture with those guys?
Absolutely. And I hope he does. Because, I mean, one of the biggest life lessons, I think, and the older you get, takes a while to learn it, is forgiveness. And even if some of those guards were tough on him, I would hope that he has forgiven them, and I hope he appreciates their roles at that time in his life and beyond, to be guards, you know, in a juvenile facility. I want to hear from Jeremy Kolok on this. Jeremy, you're a huge Spurs fan, and you know the career of DeJounte Murray well. Do you make this high five unanimous for DeJounte Murray this morning?
Oh, absolutely. I love how open he is about it. Like you said, Chris, about his past and about some of the struggles he's gone through. I think he is so relatable to a lot of kids, that in a way that a lot of athletes aren't, because they either didn't go through the same trials and tribulations in their childhood, or didn't come from the same type of difficult situation, or they just didn't have as, they just don't like to talk about it maybe. But DeJounte is very open about it. And first of all, I think it makes him way more likable than if he wasn't. And second of all, it's only good. It can only do good for a kid who may be in a similar situation, who happens to be a DeJounte Murray fan, or maybe is a DeJounte Murray fan because of this reason. I think he's such a good dude, and I would absolutely love to make this a unanimous high five for DeJounte Murray.
Yes, it's a unanimous high five. And Shannon, what a guy who strikes me right now as we talk about DeJounte and his troubles, and now he's a great athlete and a great man, Tom Brady. See, it's not easy to relate to Tom Brady. And I'm a Tom Brady fan now. I've flipped on him. But Tom Brady grew up in an affluent home, had a lot of money as a kid. His parents had a lot of money. Good-looking guy, great athlete as a kid. To our knowledge, never got into trouble. He was a 49er fan. I forgive him for that. Goes to the University of Michigan, fights hard, 6th round draft pick into the NFL, becomes the GOAT, marries a supermodel, and wins more Super Bowls than anybody ever. That's a great story, but we don't know about a lot of hardship that Tom Brady went through. Clearly he's disciplined. Clearly he's the GOAT. Clearly he works at it. But to me, Shannon, DeJounte Murray showing us that I was going in the wrong direction. I was in a juvenile detention center. My life could have gone real bad, but I turned it around. And then he gives the message, you can too. I believe in you, whoever you are, and whatever your circumstance.
Yeah.
To me, Shannon, that is a much more relatable life and example and inspiration than Tom Brady.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there are athletes that in their prime or when they're in the leagues that they're playing in, they go through something and we see the mugshot, right? And then we get I'm going to turn it around, look how far I've already come from where I started on my turn. So the fact that he's openly sharing this, right? Because we sometimes feel like these folks that are in the spotlight, that we deserve it for whatever reason, that we earned the right somehow to know everything and anything we'd like to about their current situation or their past situation. So for him to openly share and to throw that photo out, I mean, I didn't know that photo existed. And I don't know if for juveniles that's something that you can just find on the internet. I mean, you mentioned how, it could bring shame to a lot of people for him to say, look, this was my situation, but look where I am now. I think one of the other high fives we gave to him was when he bought his sister a car for graduating. He had promised her that. She followed through. He's all about the follow through, and he's got the receipts to prove it. And the fact that he's being open in this way and in such a positive way, I love it.
I always repeat this because it just means so much to me. Bill Schoening, who joins us at 8:05 today, he was interviewing PJ Carlissimo, who at the time was a Spurs assistant coach. And he said, when Pop and RC Buford and I and all the Spurs brain trust, before we make a personnel decision on bringing a new player in, either through the draft or a trade or free agency, the first question Pop asks, the first question we ask is he a Spur? And we all know what that means. If you're just an ego-based me player, that's all about you on the court and off the court in the community, you're all about just you, then you're not a Spur. I think we can say unequivocally this morning, and have been able to for years now, DeJounte Murray is a Spur. Yes. Coming up, a former Spur, Steve Kerr, his very powerful comments yesterday in Dallas about Uvalde before the game against the Dallas Mavericks. We'll hear from him. We'll talk NBA playoffs. We'll talk NFL football as God intended. Major League Baseball, Astros win last night. Bill Schoening, voice of the San Antonio Spurs at 8:05. Shannon's Salty Shakedown at 7:40. And just before that, sports history, sports birthdays, and more. Leave us a talk back. You can either comment on sports or comment on Uvalde. We want to hear your comments on this Wednesday morning. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. He's Jeremy Kolok. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. I forgot to give Jeremy the rundown. I print a rundown on the show which tells us what we're doing. See, high five play of the day. The hard out was 6:53. The out in the next segment is 7:20. Coming up, we've got the Salty Shakedown, Sports History, Sports Birthdays. So Dennis LaRue says culture and character matter. Totally agree, sir. All right. Yeah. Jason, I did not get to watch Real Sports last night. Let me know what you thought. I did not get a chance to watch it. I feel bad because I said I'd watch it yesterday. All right. I need to record some spots here. I'm going to record some spots, just letting you know. Okay, no, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Okay. I am going to, Astros win. Tracy, that was cool. I'm going to mute myself for a moment. Try to see if I can bang these out. We will be back with audio in a moment. Congratulations. Congratulations, Wes Perkins. Very cool, sir. All right, I'm going to mute for a moment. I'll be back. Okay, I think I got that back. Now, similar on the open, I will come in earlier though. So when you hear me come in, you can then slowly fade it out. Thanks. But I'll come in a little later than normal, but I won't wait as long as I did at the top. Thanks, man. All right. And Steve Kerr audio coming up this half hour. Beautiful. Edit, select, edit, copy. File, new. I got to save these 3 Diamonds Direct commercials I just recorded. All right. Almost there. Get out, Jason Paniagua. Real Sports ended with a segment on the Savannah Bananas. That is way cool. All right. Yeah, John Williams says, and I agree, must be really hard for the parents of surviving students at Robb Elementary in Uvalde, having to explain that their friends and teachers are not coming back. Yeah, that's and I think I read that school is 2nd grade through 5th. Yeah, that is so much for a 2nd grader to a 5th grader, and I think mainly 4th graders were a lot of those who were killed. My God, that's just god awful. Okay, so Jason Paniagua watched the Real Sports episode last night that had 2 accusers of Deshaun Watson. And Jason Paniagua writes, after hearing from the 2 women they spoke to, Watson does need to be suspended for an extended time. Yeah, I the whole Uvalde thing yesterday, Jason and everybody else just threw me for a loop. So, I was just kind of shell shocked and looking at the coverage, and so I just didn't get a chance to watch it. I'll try to do that today. In fact, maybe even after the show. All right. Here we come. Woo! Woo! There it is.
This is the Chris Duel Show. Chris Duel.
Wednesday morning, May 25th, 2022. Welcome in the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. In the 6 o'clock hour, we spoke at length about what happened in Uvalde yesterday, the horrible tragedy at last count in that mass shooting at Robb Elementary School. 19 students, elementary school students, dead, 2 teachers, and the gunman. And on our live video feed this morning, a number of people with ties to Uvalde, some knowing directly some of the victims, including the teachers. And, we're a sports show, and we will talk sports this morning. It's our job. We get it. But like you, I would imagine, hard for us, Shannon, Jeremy, and myself, to go to work on this Wednesday morning without thinking about, reacting to, and sending our prayers for Uvalde, the community, the families that will never be the same. We will, in a moment, we'll play the comments from Steve Kerr. And I mentioned to Shannon and to Jeremy, I'm in the iHeart Radio building in San Antonio. And, we come to you from San Antonio and Austin, AM 1300, The Zone in Austin, Ticket 760 in San Antonio. So walking down the hallway here, and Shannon's been here, there are speakers. So you hear one of the radio stations, just they decide which one they're going to play on the speakers throughout the building. So I heard the news talk station down the hall, 1200 WOAI. And as I'm just getting ready for this show this morning, I hear Steve Kerr, the head coach of the Golden State Warriors. As soon as we heard this, knowing it's Steve Kerr, and knowing that Steve Kerr has some personal experience with gun violence, as his father was gunned down in Beirut, Lebanon, when he was was the head of American University in Beirut back in the 80s, when Steve Kerr was a basketball player at the University of Arizona alongside Sean Elliott. So Steve Kerr speaks from experience. And Shannon, you and I and Jeremy were going to play this anyway, but it is interesting. We look at Steve Kerr, at least I do, from a sports perspective. It's like, whoa, okay, he's a head coach of the Golden State Warriors and former Spur. He played with Michael Jordan. He's got an amazing past, but we should also be mindful of the fact that even in a news realm, it is hugely newsworthy who he is and the comments that he made yesterday on his platform after shoot around, yet before yesterday's Game 4 against the Mavericks in Dallas. And Shannon, one of the things he says at the outset is, I'm not going to take any basketball questions because basketball just isn't that important today. And then he had a message he wanted to deliver.
Yeah. And, that's very in line with Steve Kerr and things we've heard from him before. And Jeremy said he can't believe they even played last night's game, obviously last night's game in Dallas. And unfortunately, with the number of shootings we've seen like this isn't the first time that we've had major sporting events occur, if not the same day, a day after, and even in towns and areas that were close to those affected. So Steve Kerr, tremendous human being, and obviously knew that the main topic of conversation needed to not be about a basketball game last night.
So we're going to play you his comments here. And again, when you hear the emotion in his voice and the exasperation, remember, this is a guy whose father was gunned down by gunmen in Beirut, Lebanon. When, my understanding, when something like this happens, I can imagine every time there's gun violence and a big story like this, it affects Steve Kerr viscerally. It's a completely different arena, but I can tell you, in a similar dynamic, My brother was killed in a plane crash, in a military plane crash, almost 40 years ago. And to this day, when there's a military plane crash or a plane crash of any kind that takes lives, I am immediately transported back to the day my brother died, which was October 22nd, 1980. It is a visceral reaction. It is emotional. So I can only imagine that every time there is senseless gun violence and lives are taken, Steve Kerr is taken back to the day when he was in college in Tucson and his dad was murdered by gun violence in Beirut, Lebanon. So with that in mind, when you hear the emotion in Steve Kerr's voice, part of it is coming from personal experience and his hope that other families don't have to go through what he went through. Here's Steve Kerr yesterday before the Mavericks and the Warriors game.
I'm not going to talk about basketball. Nothing's happened with our team in the last 6 hours. We're going to start the same way tonight. Any basketball questions don't matter. Since we left shoot around, 14 children were killed 400 miles from here, and a teacher. And in the last 10 days, we've had elderly Black people killed in a supermarket in Buffalo. We've had Asian churchgoers killed in Southern California. And now we have children murdered at school. When are we going to do something? I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to the devastated families that are out there. I'm so tired of I'm tired of the moments of silence. Enough. There's 50 senators right now who refuse to vote on H.R. 8, which is a background check rule that the House passed a couple of years ago. It's been sitting there for 2 years. And there's a reason they won't vote on it, to hold on to power. So I ask you, Mitch McConnell, I ask all of you senators who refuse to do anything about the violence and school shootings and supermarket shootings, I ask you, are you going to put your own desire for power ahead of the lives of our children and our elderly and our churchgoers? Because that's what it looks like. It's what we do every week. So I'm fed up. I've had enough. We're going to play the game tonight, but I want every person here, every person listening to this to think about your own child or grandchild or mother or father or sister, brother. How would you feel if this happened to you today? We can't get numb to this. We can't sit here and just read about it and go, well, let's have a moment of silence. Yeah, go Dubs, Come on, Mavs, let's go. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go play a basketball game. And 50 senators in Washington are going to hold us hostage. You realize that 90% of Americans, regardless of political party, want background check, universal background check. 90% of us, we are being held hostage by 50 senators in Washington who refuse to even put it to a vote, despite what we, the American people, want. They won't vote on it because they want to hold on to their own power. It's pathetic. I've had enough.
Steve Kerr, head coach of the Golden State Warriors, with about as powerful of a statement as I have ever heard from a sports figure, or certainly a sports coach. Shannon, Greg Popovich speaks about the nation and speaks about politics and non-basketball topics quite a bit, and there are a number of people who criticize Greg Popovich for that. But again, the emotion in Steve Kerr's voice, and I think one of the more poignant moments there that we just listened to when he said he took it to you and me and everyone listening. What would you feel if this happened to your child tonight, or your father, or your mother, or someone in your family? And when Steve Kerr says that, he's speaking from experience, which I think is all the more compelling, just knowing his background in a situation like that.
Yeah, I don't think anyone could have probably put it better or said it better with the emotion behind all of that and the way that we just heard from Steve Kerr. And it brings me, in talking about basketball specifically, a handful of years ago, shut up and dribble, right? Don't just to do your job. Don't talk about what's going on in the world. Well, this is something that affects all of us each and every time. And it feels like like he said, it's repeats itself. We're rinsing and repeating here. When are we going to do something? And so for him to use his platform and to do so, it's not like this was a regular NBA game. This conference finals. This was a game that they could have won and sent back. Them packing to go home to rest up for the finals and to use that opportunity to, again, express his frustration. And he said it, he's fed up. And I think a lot of us are, and good on him to call out, like you said, those 50 senators, specifically holding us hostage here with how we are going to fix this in the future going forward.
And as Steve Kerr said, regardless of political affiliation, I realize this is Texas, and Steve Kerr made those comments in Texas, in Dallas. I realize there are fervent Second Amendment supporters who will defend their right to bear arms with all their might, and I get that, and I understand that, and there are responsible gun owners who still believe, as Steve Kerr cited, universal background checks. This was an 18-year-old kid in Uvalde who reportedly, just a few days ago, in the month of May, he turned 18, the shooter, and on his 18th birthday, according to reports, went into a gun shop in Uvalde and bought rifles and long guns and reportedly the guns he committed the crimes with. I don't know the answers. I did see some social media where this kid posted photos of his guns and seemed to be alluding to his intent to do something like this. I don't have the answers, but I think people smarter than I am, including responsible gun owners and supporters of the Second Amendment, I think we can do better. I think you can still own your guns and rifles as a responsible gun owner, and I think we can still go further to better ensure the safety of our children, first of all, and our communities in addition to that. Now, Jeremy Kolok, you said something in the 6 o'clock hour that I didn't even think of till you brought it up. And Shannon brought up the shut up and dribble. When a lot of, especially African-American, but not only African-American NBA players, some, white players as well, said, hey, we got an issue in this country of innocent people being gunned down when they shouldn't be. And then, there was a segment who said, shut up and dribble to NBA players who were making that statement and taking that stand. And Jeremy, you brought up in the 6 o'clock hour, the NBA had an opportunity last night, in the aftermath or in conjunction with Steve Kerr's statement to really, if you want to influence 50 senators on how important some of these issues might be to the NBA, they could have gone a little further last night. For people who weren't with us an hour ago, what was your suggestion?
Well, so my suggestion was that we should have canceled that game. And I'm a basketball fan, Chris. That's not something that I say every day lightly, right? But this game was in Texas, and I think Steve Kerr's comments kind of paved the way for them to be able to cancel this game last night. It seemed not right. It didn't seem like the right place, and definitely not the correct time to play that basketball game. And it's ironic, but the first thing I thought of is, where's Kyrie Irving when you need him? Because Kyrie Irving, if he was involved with that game, if the Nets were playing, he would have thrown a fit pregame about whether or not that game was going to happen, right? As far as Steve Kerr, his comments, I think that's the only commentary, and obviously it's so hard to find the words, so That's not to take it away from anybody else, but Steve Kerr just said the perfect things. He's the only guy that has said exactly what I'm feeling and so many of us are feeling. And with his background, like you mentioned, Chris, I think it hit home even harder when you can see the emotion, right? I mean, if you watch that video of Steve Kerr, he's like breathing heavy, he has to stop
Yeah.
and collect himself. He is sick of it just like we are, and it's frustrating when there's people in power or in the public eye that it seems like it doesn't affect them the same way it does us, right? It doesn't impact them emotionally, or they don't have the same empathetic values or whatever. So I just think it's so important when someone like Steve Kerr does speak up like this and has the same emotion that we all feel and we all should feel. And going back to what you first asked, I think because of what Steve Kerr said, the NBA absolutely should have canceled that game yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, and especially, as you mentioned, Jeremy, because it was in the state of Texas, 400 miles away from Uvalde. I mean, if this game was in San Francisco, a home game for the Warriors, maybe it's a different calculation if that were to be considered. Now, Shannon, Jeremy mentioned Kyrie Irving, and you kind of just let us know that Kyrie Irving has sounded off on this issue. What do we know about Kyrie?
Yeah, so Kyrie obviously not in these playoffs, and so his platform is limited now to his social media. And this morning he did not tweet anything yesterday, but to his 4.4 million followers this morning, just 7 minutes ago, he announced, "Protect our youth by any means necessary. My prayers are with you, God creator. Please place your hands on our families everywhere." So clearly he, after, waiting as long as he did to say something, is feeling it. And, we saw a lot of tweets last night from LeBron James, and, it's not just affecting obviously the players that had to be on the court last night and the players that will be on the court tonight for the Celtics and the Heat, but for, all the other athletes that, go through the same thing that we're all going through this morning.
I want to read, and we appreciate your perspective as listeners and viewers of this show. I say viewers due to the live video stream. Robert Browning, who lives in Japan and is about to make his way back to the United States with his family. Robert writes, "I have struggled with this all day and just can't get a grasp on my emotions. My 9-year-old asked me about it this afternoon, and all I could do was just cry and hug her." And Shannon, you and I and Jeremy, we're not parents, but my gosh, can you imagine? What do you say to your 9-year-old or your 7-year-old or whatever age, your child who is processing this, knowing that children of that same age went to school as children do and never came home? I mean, you just talk about the fear that a child must have, that a child should not have to have in this country, in this world, in this life. Childhood should be sacred and protected, and adults should protect them. They shouldn't have to learn about the harsh realities of a mass shooting. And sadly, as we know, schools now have, regular mass shooter drills because this is just such a part of American life in the 21st century.
Well, and, as we mentioned before, this is the last week for schools in a lot of Texas, and if not this week, the next week. And so kids getting excited, preparing for summer, doing all of the exciting things that come with going to school, the final days of the school year. And Uvalde announced yesterday afternoon that their semester, their school year was over for those students. And so now, the summer, it's not going to be what they thought it would be, right? Because that's going to sit with them. And then, come the fall, well, how is that going to go down? You talk about, Robert Browning hugging his child, like how so many of those kids, they're not going to want to go back to school.
How do you walk back in that school?
How do you walk back into
Yeah.
that building, especially after that break and after what happened the last time you were there?
We are going to dive back heavily into the world of sports if you're just joining us. But this really, we mentioned the Kyrie Irving tweet. We played you Steve Kerr's comments minutes ago. It is an intersection of sports and this horrible tragedy that happened yesterday in America, specifically in Uvalde. Jeremy Kolok, one of the most celebrated San Antonio Spurs, one of the most revered San Antonio Spurs, the Admiral, David Robinson, has tweeted as well. What do we know from David Robinson this morning?
Yeah, a little bit under an hour ago, the Admiral tweeted out, as I wake up to pray, my heart is broken for the losses of my fellow Texans in Uvalde. I pray that those families would find their strength in Christ. And he called it senseless. And I believe that's the first former Spur or current Spur that has spoken out. But Chris, maybe you can keep an eye on this better than I can with all your connections. I need to know when Coach Pop is going to say something because it's inevitable, doesn't it seem like it?
Yeah, it is. But, and again, we don't know exactly, where is Pop right now? Certainly the draft is on June 23rd, but, is Pop in San Antonio at the practice facility? Is he, he's got a vineyard in Napa. He likes to travel the globe, Europe. It's a great question. I know one time Pop, he specifically called a writer and said, I want to say these things. And he said those things. So just one other comment as we go to break. And coming up, it'll be Shannon's Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays, and more. Speaking of the Spurs, Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, is going to join us at 8:05. Dennis LaRue Jr. pointing out, and this is true, we already have a teacher and a substitute teacher shortage in Texas and across America. Can you imagine right now somebody who has been considering the teaching profession that just isn't sure? My God, it is a noble, honorable, vital profession. Educators, teachers, and I got to believe this has a chilling effect on that as well for people just considering becoming teachers in Texas and across America. We will dive back into sports. One of the great ways to do it is Shannon's Salty Shakedown. That is coming right up. Sports history, sports birthdays, and the great Bill Schoening, who is 8 days away from his book launch and book signing Thursday, June 2nd at the Barn Door Restaurant, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll talk about that as well with Bill just after 8 o'clock. Don't go anywhere. We're with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out with us on this sad Wednesday morning in America. But we do talk sports, and sports is kind of a refuge for many of us at a time like this. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney, Jeremy Kolok making the show go. It's the Chris Duel Show. All right. Wow, Joe Garcia working at a high school this morning. That's got to be tough. All right, David Munoz had a message for me about something I've got to check here. Let's see. Okay. Thank you, Maria. Thanks for being here. Everybody else who is here, we do appreciate it. What's happening? I'm recording Big Bib right now.
Okay.
What's up?
I don't know if you know anything about Techport.
Techport?
Yep.
I do not.
Okay, that's it is a place that has a 3,500 seat theater.
Okay.
It's going to be hosting some concerts that are already sold out, a couple of boxing matches.
Okay. Wow.
High technology video games being played by people all over the world.
Huge.
It is huge. So if you just saved, check out the Big Boobs radio location at Techport San Antonio.
Techport San Antonio. Okay.
On General Hudnell.
On General Hudnell.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is a huge place in terms of state of the art. This is a big plus for the city of San Antonio.
Huge.
This place itself.
Okay.
And the Big Boobs is part of 6 or 7 other restaurants. Don't even say that, but just between you and me, there's a little what looks like a regular food court.
Okay.
There's an Earl Labels, a Brevity, and 3 or 4 other places in there. But
Oh, that's so
Techport
cool.
is big for San Antonio.
That is perfect timing because I was. Thank you for sending that, Wes Perkins. Okay, I'm going to record a spot. So here we go on that. All right. I kind of ran out of time on that. Let me try this. Woo! Okay, something went wrong. What? Gonna have to do that again. Oh, well. Or do I?
Austin Highway at Lanark.
Beautiful. Here we come. Here we go.
She keeps a Moe and a Shamba in a pretty cabinet.
Let's get back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. At Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
The unique voice of Freddie Mercury and Queen. Jeremy Kolok is your Soundscape Stylist. Coming up at 8:05, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schöning. We'll talk NBA playoffs with Bill. We'll talk about his book launch and book signing coming to the Barn Door Restaurant in San Antonio a week from tomorrow. That would be Thursday, June 2nd. We'll dive into that with Bill. We'll see what else is happening in the world of Bill Schöning as our tour of the Schöning family continues. We had Carl Schöning on the show yesterday. He was tremendous, as he always is, as is Bill. So Bill Schöning just minutes away, just after the top of the hour. Moments away is Shannon's Salty Shakedown. And we did mention, if you want to send us a talkback message, we'll play them on the air. I saw Wes Perkins, our friend on the live video feed, says he's sending one right now. So you can not only talk sports, which we always do, but if you would like to leave some thoughts for the people of Uvalde and the children of Uvalde, Texas, in the aftermath of yesterday's tragedy, you certainly can as well. Before we get you Shannon's Salty Shakedown, how about some sports birthdays and this day in sports history? On this day in 1935, May 25th, 1935, Babe Ruth hits his final 3 home runs of his career in Pittsburgh, but his team at the time, the Boston Braves, still lose the game 11-7 to the Pirates. On this day in 1965, the greatest, Muhammad Ali, knocks out Sonny Liston in 2 minutes and 12 seconds of round 1 at the Central Maine Civic Center in Lewiston, Maine, to retain his WBC, WBA world heavyweight boxing title. This one's insane. On this day in 1966, a soccer match between Peru and Argentina. Fans of Peru and Argentina started fighting, and 248 people died. 248. Come on, it's soccer, people. Come on. On this day in 1975, the 29th NBA championship, the Golden State Warriors swept the Washington Bullets 4-0. Golden State Warriors. I'm going to lay off them today because of Steve Kerr's comments. Finally, on this day in 1981, the Boston Red Sox, Carl Yastrzemski, at age 41, became only the 4th player in Major League Baseball history to play 3,000 games, joining Ty Cobb, Stan Musial, and Hank Aaron. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1898, American boxer, world heavyweight champion from 1926 to 1930, Gene Tunney was born in New York City. Gene Tunney passed away in 1978. Born on this day in 1926, Basketball Hall of Fame guard and later a Lakers head coach, Bill Sharman. In fact, there's a Bill Sharman character in Winning Time. He's one of the executives at the time in Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. Bill Sharman was born in Abilene, Texas. I did not know that. And he passed away in 2013. Finally, born on this day in 1978, a Chicago Bears linebacker with the crew cut haircut, Brian Urlacher. Brian Urlacher was born in Pasco, Washington on this day in 1978. Those are your sports birthdays. That's your sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, farm animals, pole assassins, and monkeys, here it is, your midweek salty shakedown.
All right, Chris, a couple weeks back, we mentioned Bijan Robinson and how when NIL first became a thing, he was one of the first of the Texas football program and one of the first athletes nationwide to announce a deal that he had, and it was with Raising Cane's. And since then, he has added numerous other accounts to his ever-growing little business that is Bijan Robinson, as he looks to make a chance to remove to be on the Heisman watch list for this upcoming season. And so a few weeks ago, we talked about his most recent deal, which was with Lamborghini of Austin. I wasn't even aware we had one. Pretty cool deal. Any young male or female would probably love to have a free hookup with that and just to get to say that you work with those folks. Now, Chris, you and I, we do endorsements as part of our job roles here, and there are rules and stipulations involved, right? You can't endorse two things of the same product that are completely different or under a different company. I guess that's not a thing in NIL, but as we continue to manage and morph these rules, maybe it should be, because Bijan Robinson yesterday, you look at his Instagram stories, his story starts out with him doing an interview of some sort within the Lamborghini Austin office, and there's plenty of Lamborghinis and fun-looking cars sitting behind him. But then later on in his stories, he is now in a promotional video along with what appears to be his brand new truck from a local Ford dealer. I mean, Ford does more than trucks, but they are also kind of in like the fast and cool cars, right? With the Mustangs and everything. I feel like that is their competitive brand via a Lamborghini. But does this feel iffy to you? If this was in the radio world, could he get away with this?
No, as you well know, Shannon, as you just alluded to, and maybe people don't know this about radio, but for example, cars, if Shannon is doing a commercial for a Ford dealership, and then someone comes up and goes, "Hey, Shannon, can you do this Toyota dealership?" Well, Shannon would have to say, and it's one of our rules in radio, that's a competitor with an advertiser I already endorse, the Ford dealership, so I can't do that. So that is it, Shannon. It is the wild, wild west. I mean, even rules that apply to people in radio do not apply to athletes, I guess. So, and maybe this will be what Bijan Robinson does. Maybe he'll be driving a Corvette next. Get a Chevy Corvette, little red Corvette dealership to hook him up with a Corvette.
I mean, you can only drive one car at a time. And what are the rules and stipulations of these deals, right? When is he driving the truck versus when is he driving the Lambo? And again, I don't know where this man lives, but I really hope it's in a gated community with a giant underground garage at this point, because he's got a fleet of vehicles, and they're not cheap. Especially those Lamborghinis. All right, moving to the world of the NFL. As we know, Pepsi is a huge brand for the NFL, and they have been in a relationship for a very long time. It's not just the Pepsi Super Bowl halftime show, but a lot of their chips and snacks and cookies have branded NFL features on them throughout the NFL season. When you go to the grocery store, their deal is typically worth, I believe, $2 billion for 10 years. Well, they were just in contract negotiations to re-up, and re-up they did. However, Chris, Pepsi no longer the headlining sponsor of the Super Bowl halftime show. So for the first time since 2012, there is an availability for someone to swoop in and take over that role. So 2012, that's 10 years ago. I don't even remember who was previously for. I just feel like at this point it's synonymous, right? Pepsi, Super Bowl halftime. Is there another brand you'd like to see get that shot? Interesting in some of these write-ups, Anheuser-Busch, who loves to spend money around the league and around lots of leagues. One of their executives was talking about this, and that, it's not necessarily lucrative to put your name on something like that, right? So do you think we'll even have, or do we need a sponsor for the halftime show? I mean, we already know the artists pay for all of the production and everything that goes into it. So really the advertisement really is just money going into the NFL's pockets.
It would, if this would have happened last year, as you know, Snoop Dogg and all of the hip hop people, specifically Snoop Dogg, wouldn't it have been nice if a cannabis company of some, maybe doesn't Ricky Williams have a marijuana company?
I'm sure he does.
I know some other high profile athletes do. Maybe it's time for the NFL to, kind of move into the realm of herb and weed, and it could be a whole new thing. Maybe some rolling paper companies, Zigzag. I don't know, Shannon, but this is probably why I'm not an NFL or a television executive. When I am at that board table brainstorming on the new sponsor of the Super Bowl halftime show, I got a feeling I might not be the victor in that brainstorming session.
Yeah. Autoline Bridgestone, apparently the previous Super Bowl halftime show sponsor, doesn't have the same ring to it for whatever reason to me as Pepsi, but we'll see. I mean, Coke, I don't know if Pepsi's deal with the NFL still singles them out as the official and that Coke can't come in, but if they could, I would definitely consider it. All right, moving on to a player that we'd hope to see in this year's Super Bowl. CeeDee Lamb, of course, a member of the Dallas Cowboys and a standout. He's gotten himself into some trouble, which is not, that's not crazy because he is part of that Cowboys program, and lots of Cowboys seems to find themselves in trouble at one point or another. But his trouble is that he's being sued, Chris, for not signing enough trading cards. He's got a deal with a company, Leaf, that deals out trading cards and sign trading cards as prizes or even just as things that people can purchase. And they had a deal with CeeDee Lamb for him to sign a certain number of trading cards, and he didn't make do. In fact, the CEO ended up tweeting out, as we shared last week, Leaf has filed the first ever lawsuit against an athlete in order to compel the completion of an autograph contract so customers holding redemptions are not forced to take replacements. We hate doing this, but customers need defending here. So the company feels bad for the customers that have put in for their CeeDee Lamb autographed trading cards, and CeeDee Lamb did not return what he said he had set out to do. Now, there's no word on what that number of cards was, right? I understand it could be tiring to write that long and to do that over and over and over again. But think of how many kids grow up practicing signing their autograph, hoping to be rich and famous one day, that people would ask for it. Not only are people asking for CeeDee's autograph, but he's being paid to do those autographs. And, even Johnny Manziel, we still see videos of him on social media with his buddy, and he's got a stack of posters and he's just signing and pushing. What is CeeDee Lamb doing where he can't make this fulfillment? This is a bad look if this, ultimately becomes a court case, and they, that's just ridiculous. Something to be sued for. No, CeeDee Lamb, you need to right this wrong, and you need to do it today. I don't know how many you need to sign, but you need to sign them.
Yeah, I agree, Shannon. It's a bad look on every level. And ultimately, it's customer service. They're your fans. I mean, the people who want CeeDee Lamb autographs like CeeDee Lamb, and they think you're worth something. They think your autograph's going to be worth something. And as you said, Shannon, we're paying you. Sit down, have a cocktail. You can do both, and start signing, CD. Come on, man. This is not good.
Yeah, it's just bad for business, and the fact that he's making history here, the first ever that Leaf has had to come after to say you didn't fulfill your part of the deal. But good for them for sticking up for their clients and their fans. Hopefully CD will make this right. There it is, today's Salty Shakedown.
Outstanding Salty Shakedown as always. Dennis LaRue Jr. writes to CeeDee Lamb, get a Sharpie, sign them. Live up to number 88. Well, there's another factor right there. You want to be number 88? Come on, man. You're tarnishing the good name of Drew Pearson, Michael Irvin, and the not so good name of Des Bryant. Sorry, Jeremy. Jeremy's a big Oklahoma State Des Bryant guy. I do find, Shannon, the story you did on Pepsi no longer being the halftime sponsor of the Super Bowl halftime show. You mentioned Coca-Cola. If if I'm a Coca-Cola executive, I'd say, all right, we'll show them.
Yeah.
We'll go snatch that from them.
I have to feel like Coke, like in Pepsi's agreement that they still have with the NFL, have made it to where Coke can't jump in on that. But yeah, just like, I mean, even Pepsi and like the blue and the imaging that I feel we're so used to when they make the announcements and when they do all the commercial spots, that's going to be different. And it'll be interesting to see if anyone is willing to put down the money for that Super Bowl halftime show.
And, you mentioned that it's not necessarily a profit generating prospect for Pepsi or whoever winds up being the next Super Bowl halftime show advertiser. I still, though, I mean, all I remember seeing, as you mentioned, that Pepsi logo and all the ads leading up to the halftime throughout the day of the pregame shows of the Super Bowl. You see the Pepsi halftime show is coming, and you see all these Pepsi commercials. And I got to believe it's if Coke can't get into it, I got to believe it's probably going to be. You mentioned Anheuser-Busch. I imagine it would be a beer company. But if it is, I wonder if, your halftime show is supposed to be so wholesome and, kids are watching. Does the NFL want a beer sponsor for their halftime show? Or does it even matter? Because you do see beer sponsors throughout an NFL broadcast. So I'm not sure.
Yeah. I almost feel like Pizza Hut's going to come in and do something now that they're the official pizza. They already spend a lot of money. What's a couple more million to throw down?
Yeah, we know it won't be Papa John, who revealed to us not long ago that Jerry Jones and Robert Kraft were trying to get him to blow out Roger Goodell as commissioner of the National Football League. So that's very, very cool. Outstanding. Salty shakedown. So, all right, coming up, we'll talk a little Bill Schoening. And Shannon, one of the topics on the table for Bill Schoening, as we mentioned, as we'll bring up with Bill, he wrote this very, very cool book, and his book signing is a week from tomorrow at the Barn Door Restaurant. See, Bill Schoening can sign his book. Can't CD Lamb sign? What if Bill Schoening didn't show up to his book signing? What if we all go to the Barn Door Restaurant a week from tomorrow? And it's like, hey, man, where's Bill Schoening? Oh, I don't know, man. He's hanging out with CD Lamb somewhere.
Well, you'd sue.
Well,
obviously.
We'd be angry. And again, like CD Lamb, we're going to the Bill Schoening book signing because we like Bill Schoening. We're fans. We want his autograph on our book. I do have the book on Kindle, and I still may bring a Sharpie and have Bill autograph the back of my Sharpie, back of my Kindle with his Sharpie, if I can even spit it out. Yeah, sorry. I'll work on that. I'll get like a silver Sharpie that you sign the back of my Kindle. All right, coming up, a sports update at the top of the hour. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, talk a little NBA playoffs, NBA draft, and more. Big 8 o'clock hour coming up. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. All right. I got to do 4 more Big Bib barbecue commercials. So let's do those. File new. So these are 30 seconds each. I need 4 of them. John, I will try to remember to ask Bill Schoening that. That's a good idea. Okay, so there's that. Did I do that? I did. Okay, I'm going to lower that. Going to take off the headphones. And we're going to bang out 4 commercials. So I normally mute myself for this, but I'll show you what happens when I don't mute myself. You're going to have to listen to. And if I screw up, I got to do another one. They're 30 seconds each. Here we go. 4 of them. Chris here for the Big Bib Barbecue, Austin Highway at Lanark, and the brand new location at Techport San Antonio on General Hudnell. Get your rub on. Delicious barbecue, brisket, baby back ribs, rib tips, pulled pork, mild and jalapeno sausage, turkey, chicken, catfish. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. Get in there. A San Antonio tradition since the year 2000. Learn all about it at the website, thebigbib.com. The Big Bib Barbecue. Okay, there's one. Here we go. I need 3 more. Do it in 5 seconds. Chris here for the Big Bib Barbecue, true Texas-style barbecue. Get your rub on with brisket, baby back ribs, rib tips, pulled pork, mild and jalapeno sausage, turkey, chicken, catfish. It is all delicious. 2 locations now for the Big Bib Barbecue, Austin Highway at Lanark, and the brand new location, Techport San Antonio on General Hudnell. Get all the information on the website, thebigbib.com, and get in there. You're going to love it. The Big Bib Barbecue. I need 2 more now. Here we go. Chris here for the Big Bib Barbecue. I love it. You will too. Get your rub on with brisket, baby back ribs, rib tips, pulled pork, mild and jalapeno sausage, turkey, chicken, catfish. It is all so delicious. True Texas-style barbecue. 2 locations, Austin Highway at Lanark, and the brand new location, Techport San Antonio on General Hudnell. Go to the website, get all the information, thebigbib.com. Get your rub on at the Big Bib Barbecue. 1 more. See, 1 runs each day next week, so I record 5 before next week. That way they can just run them next week. Here they go. Chris here for the Big Bib Barbecue. Get your rub on. It is true Texas-style barbecue. I'm talking brisket, baby back ribs, rib tips, pulled pork, mild and jalapeno sausage, turkey, chicken, catfish. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. Get in there. 2 locations for the Big Bib Barbecue, Austin Highway at Lanark, and the brand new location at Techport San Antonio on General Hudnell. Full service, family friendly. Check out the website, thebigbib.com, the Big Bib Barbecue. Woo, done. All right. Let's see here. Get rid of that. Edit, select, edit, copy. All right. Dean Stone says, I like how the Big Bib Barbecue has different sauces. They do, and they're good. Really, I'm a big fan of the Big Bib Barbecue. Joseph says, Bill Schoening can autograph a Sharpie with the same Sharpie. Hashtag Bill Schoening Facts. That could be a new segment. Bill Schoening Facts. All right, now I need to edit some other spots. Where did I put those? R&R Auto Glass. That's what I'm looking for. I thought, wait, okay. I didn't send those. Could have sworn I sent those. But all right, that's fine. I'll just send them now. So, gonna look at that one more time. I could have sworn I sent those. All right. I'm losing my mind. I thought I sent something to David Munoz yesterday, and I apparently did not. Bill Schoening coming right up. I'll get his photo up here in a sec. All right, where is that? Let's do this. All right, where's my Bill Schoening photo? It is. Well, there's the Bill Schoening book. And here is the Bill Schoening book signing photo. So I may leave that up for a moment while I edit another spot. Let's see, it's May 30th. Jeremy is getting ready to call Bill Schoening, picking up the phone. There he is calling Bill. Let's see here. Up calling again. Maybe he didn't get Bill the first time. Maybe Bill's big timing us. And you are, what are you, CD Lamb? Come on. Let's see here. I'm going to do that. This is B. Here we are. We are back. 8 o'clock hour. Bill Schoening's mustache is named Kevin. Bill, I think you know, Dean Stone. All right. Whoa.
Chris Duel.
Welcome in to the 8 o'clock hour on this Wednesday, May 25th, 2022. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Jeremy Kolok makes the entire broadcast go. And this is Wednesday, May 25th. Let's synchronize our calendars. A week from tomorrow, June 2nd, at the Barn Door Restaurant in San Antonio on North New Braunfels, just inside Loop 410, will be the book launch and book signing by Bill Schoening. His new book, Stories, Sports, and Songs, Tales and Tunes by a Play-by-Play Lifer. He will sign the book. Some people asked last week, will he have copies available for purchase? Yes. I believe you can purchase them for $20 autographed. And then we're going to have music and tales. Bill Schoening, a little bit of everything going to happen at the Barn Door Restaurant a week from tomorrow. Bill Schoening, how are you this morning?
Rocking and rolling, Chris. Thank you very much for the plug. I appreciate that. We should have some fun. And if that's not enough, Chris Duel is the MC, ladies and gentlemen. So I may have you be the opening act, break out that LA comedy scene
Woo!
that you had going back in the 80s.
Yeah, I might have to brush off my Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky jokes from my early comedy act. But Bill, we don't want to advertise. If you're going to have me MC, that could drive customers away. We should probably keep that on the down low that I might be involved. I certainly plan on being there. I've got the book, and Bill, I've even thought about this before I got the physical book, and I recommend the physical book because it's got great photos and it's much easier for Bill to autograph the physical book than the Kindle. But I didn't want to wait for the book, Bill, so I pre-ordered it on Kindle. So the day it dropped on Amazon, the book appeared on my Kindle. But I thought about this. My Kindle is silvery metallic looking. On the back, if I either get a black Sharpie or maybe one of those gold metallic Sharpies, which they do make, you can get them at an office supply store. I think I am, Bill, at the Barn Door a week from tomorrow. I'm going to have you autograph the back of my Kindle. Even though there's like 50 other books on my Kindle, I will have one of the few Bill Schoening autographed Kindles in America. That'll be one of my claims to fame.
There you go. Don't put that on your tombstone, Chris.
Well, then you can autograph my tombstone after I'm gone. We'll make a deal. We'll make a deal.
It's like Yogi Berra says, you got to go to your friends' funerals, otherwise they won't go to yours.
Bill, you're making this huge appearance, and so I've got to ask, what's on your rider for this? What do they need to have in your dressing room and for you to have a successful event there next week?
Oh, wow. I hadn't even thought about that. I need to start writing up that list, Shannon. Maybe have a little Pinot Grigio back.
Ooh.
Making sure it's nice and cold. Let me work on that list. See if the Barn Door come up with all these different little things that this star performer will need to be able to go out there and perform.
Yeah, and again, I told you this last week, Bill. The Barn Door Restaurant, as you know, is an iconic San Antonio restaurant. Great steaks, especially known for it's a steakhouse, but just tremendous salads. They've got like a garlic ranch. I know to people who don't like garlic might not like this, but they got a garlic ranch salad dressing that I have tasted nothing like it anywhere else on earth. It's delicious. So I am not only going to enjoy your book signing, and then you are going to perform some music and tell tales, but I am going to nosh. I am going to chow down at the Barn Door Restaurant as well.
And since garlic is involved, I'll bring some mints, right?
Beautiful. All right, Bill, let's talk a little NBA basketball. Were you surprised the Golden State Warriors have looked so dominant against the Dallas Mavericks in this series? They were poised for a sweep last night. It did not happen. The Mavericks win last night, 119-109. Luka Doncic, nearly a triple-double, 30 points, 14 rebounds, 9 assists. How much of a dynamic is it, Bill, given your 20-plus years of covering NBA basketball as the voice of the Spurs, when a team is at home facing elimination, do they have a little extra juice not wanting to be eliminated on their home floor in front of their home fans?
Absolutely. There's no question about that. And this is getting to me to start to feel like a gentleman's sweep. And what that is the team goes up 3-0, loses game 4 on the road, and then wins game 5 at home. I'm not sure if that's exactly what's going to happen here, but that's the feeling I get. I think Golden State's the better team and will win the series. But credit to Luka and the rest of the Mavs last night for really playing well at home and not allowing themselves to be eliminated in a sweep. But no team's ever come back from 3-0 in the NBA playoffs, and I doubt we're going to see it in this series.
Just as I predicted it, Bill, Mavs going out after game 5. Not that I want it to be that way, but that's just the way the world turns. The other series, Boston and Heat tied 2-2 apiece. This after the Boston's recent win where the Miami Heat, I mean, they just couldn't make a basket to start the game. Have you ever seen anything like it?
It was disappointing because I was all set and ready to watch a really good basketball game. It's just this blowout happened, right? So, but I still think this series is going to go 7 games. There have been some injuries that have been involved in the series on both sides, guys going in and out. When Boston is healthy, I think they appear to be the better team, but we'll see if they can stay healthy. I like what Ime Udoka has done with this team, especially defensively. He and, of course, Will Hardy, his top assistant, who both came from the Spurs, know the importance of defense. And, of course, they've got some very good defensive players on that ball club. So you can preach defense all you want, but if you got some guys that can really go out there and commit themselves defensively, then you've got a chance to win some games. And clearly Boston is one of the best defensive teams in the league.
You mentioned, Bill, Ime Udoka and Will Hardy of Boston. Certainly that Greg Popovich coaching tree. We know Derek White on that team as well. He had a big opening of that most recent game in Boston. I think he scored the first 7 points for the Celtics in that game. If it comes down, Bill, to Boston versus Golden State, obviously Steve Kerr, very close with Greg Popovich. Ime Udoka and Will Hardy have spent many years recently with Greg Popovich, as has Derek White. Who do you think Pop pulls for in a Golden State Boston finals if it happens?
That's a really good question. I don't know if Pop would ever reveal who he would be pulling for. Maybe because Steve already has some rings and he's had so much success that maybe he would pull for Ime. I don't know that for sure, but I know he's got a special place in his heart for both guys. And of course, Mike Brown, who's going to take the Sacramento job, is an assistant for Steve Kerr, former assistant with the Spurs. And you mentioned Will Hardy, who's with Ime in Boston. So there are a lot of Spurs connections on both sides. And I would imagine Pop will just sit back and have a glass of wine and then.
Bill, the Spurs get ready to celebrate 50 years, and as part of that, they've come up with a cool logo with gold accents, and it's an homage to the championships that they have already won. And then earlier this week, they released a new set of secondary logos, and a lot of Spurs fans don't think that they're the best that they could have come out with. Jeremy even mentioned one of the circular versions. Very familiar to a lot of NBA logos that we see today. Your thoughts on those logos changes?
Well, I think with the 50th anniversary, we're going to see a lot of different things. So, I think that there might be some people that like some of this stuff, maybe some that don't. But I just think that we're going to see a lot of different marketing efforts from the Spurs to really celebrate the 50th anniversary. I know our director of broadcasting, Mike Kikarola, has been working on a lot of different things in terms of really bringing the 50th anniversary to life for everybody. They've got a lot of special things planned. Some things I can't really discuss too much because it's all still in the planning process. But I really got a feeling that next year is going to be special season and really paying homage to the rich tradition and history of the San Antonio Spurs, going all the way back to the 72-73 season when they came in from Dallas. So I'm just really looking forward to embracing the history, getting to visit with maybe some of the former players who will be coming back. There's just a bunch of different stuff that's planned. The logos are part of that, but that's just a small part of what we're going to see next year in terms of really celebrating a half a century in San Antonio for the Spurs.
I can't wait, Bill. It's going to be so much fun. And, as I look back on these 50 years, just the whole story. I mean, I remember, Bill, as you mentioned, when the Spurs came down from Dallas, where they were the Dallas Chaparrals of the ABA previously. I remember hearing people in San Antonio saying it'll never work because, first of all, this is a football town. We love our high school football in San Antonio. We love our Texas Longhorns. We love our Cowboys. And they said, and besides, it's not even NBA basketball. It's something called the ABA. It won't last more than a year. It will never work. And my goodness gracious, not only, as we all know, does it last 3 years in the ABA, the wildly improbable merger into the NBA. And then for years, Bill, I remember, well, we'll never go to the finals because there's a conspiracy. The refs the league won't let an ABA team go to the finals and win it. And of course that was ridiculous. And then, 5 championships and 6 trips to the finals later. What are you 21 years in? Will this be year 22 for you? You've called and witnessed such a huge chunk of this Spurs history and the golden years, the Tim, Manu, Tony, David years of this run have been just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, the whole thing's been amazing when you think about it, and the fact that only 4 teams went from the ABA to the NBA, and the Spurs being one of those, along with the Pacers, the Nuggets, and the Nets, and those teams have had some success in the NBA, but not the kind of success that the Spurs have had. So I think that next year is going to be a great chance for us to revisit some of these stories and maybe revisit some of these fellows who played for the Spurs. Maybe not all household names. Maybe let's tell you all about this guy. I don't know all about him. His number's not up in the rafters, but I want to learn a little bit more about him. I think we're going to have an opportunity to do that next year and really kind of embrace the rich history. I'm looking forward to it, Chris. I think there's so many different things that are going to be done next season. It'll really be cool to be in the arena next year and to see some of these things unfold.
Bill, as a Philly guy and Philly fan yourself, I've got to ask you about this. Joel Embiid, a lot of folks, including the city of Philadelphia, felt like he was the rightful winner of the MVP. And so the Philadelphia City Council came up with an official MVP for him by naming him their MVP, and MVP standing for Most Valuable Philadelphian. Is he worthy of that title? Because a lot of folks have come out of Philly, both in sports and in entertainment, including yourself. I think you'd be up for that award. Do you think Joel Embiid is deserving compared to others that have come from Philly or played for that town?
The most valuable Philadelphian of all time will be Wilt Chamberlain. Even though many people remember him as a Laker, he's a Philly guy, went to Overbrook High. He did go to the University of Kansas, but he grew up in Philly, 3.5 miles from where I did, right off of Cobbs Creek Parkway in West Philly there. So he, to me, since he's a native of Philadelphia, in my mind, I know I get a lot of pushback, but he's the greatest player of all time. You just look at his numbers. He averaged 50 points one year, for goodness sake. That means if you score 40 one night, you got to score 60 the next night to keep your average. But look at Wilt's numbers sometimes. They're mind-boggling. So to me, the MVP, the most valuable Philadelphian, at least as far as basketball is concerned, will always be the Dipper, Wilt Chamberlain.
Talking with the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. Bill, speaking of Philadelphia, as you know, because you were there Sunday night in Austin at the Moody Theater, I was in attendance. You were in attendance as a couple of dudes from Philly, the music scene specifically, took the stage. The headliner was Daryl Hall, but of course, a guy in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, recently inducted, Todd Rundgren. You're, as a Philly guy, and they brought up Philadelphia quite a bit, Bill, as you know, on Sunday night at the Moody Theater. How'd you like the Daryl Hall, Todd Rundgren show?
I really loved it. Yeah, I wish Daryl would play a few more tunes that we were familiar with. He played a lot of stuff deep into his set that I thought they were good songs, and I thought he sounded great. I just wasn't quite familiar with some of the material, where Todd played more familiar material, stuff you could kind of sing along with. But I enjoyed both artists, and they have a deep root in Philadelphia soul, even though they're blue-eyed soul guys. In fact, one of my favorite episodes of Daryl's House, which is a great TV show, you can YouTube it, is a segment where Todd Rundgren is the special guest, and they do a great version of "Didn't I Blow Your Mind This Time?" That was a great hit for the Philly band called the Delphonics back in the early '70s, and it's just a real soulful, kind of a love tune, and it's just one of those things that brings me back to my early days of loving music. Was loving that type of music, and Daryl Hall and Todd Rundgren are keeping it alive, and that's pretty cool.
And it's funny you say what you said about Daryl Hall's performance. My wife Beth and I had the exact same. We love Daryl Hall, we love Todd Rundgren, we loved Hall and Oates, but Daryl Hall. A lot of Daryl Hall's songs, I didn't know the songs. And there was even one that he didn't. He goes, "Okay, you guys are all going to know this song." And then he did it. And I'm like, I don't know that song. But, and he did. Yeah. So, but he did. And later in the set, he gave us some Hall and Oates songs. And it was great. Now, I have one other criticism of the show, Bill. Daryl Hall from Philly, Todd Rundgren from Philly. I knew you were in the building, so I'm waiting, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe at the encore when he brings out Todd Rundgren, Daryl Hall is going to say, "And let's make it a complete Philly night with the Austin Philly connection. Here he is, singer-songwriter Bill Schoening. Philly Billy, get on up here." Why did that moment not happen, Bill?
I have no idea. In my dream, it happened, Chris. That night when I dozed off, I was up there. And I sounded like those guys. I can sing a little bit. I can't sing like Todd Rundgren or Daryl Hall. In fact, Daryl Hall is one of the best soul singers, in my opinion, of all time. So, no, I can't quite get there with those guys, but it was fun. I really enjoyed it. And, it's funny the way I like music, Chris. I don't go to that many concerts anymore. I really prefer to go to clubs and see smaller acts or guys that aren't quite as big as Todd and Daryl are. So I don't really go to those big concerts anymore where there's several thousand people. I like to go see singer-songwriters at the Saxon Pub. Tonight I might go see Walt Wilkins, who's kind of a singer-songwriter, and there might be 150 people there, but I kind of dig that kind of stuff too. So, music is, obviously it's a big part of me and my life, but I really do enjoy seeing guys in a more intimate venue, in a smaller venue, where you can really kind of capture the songs. Yeah,
I agree with you. There's something special and magical about that intimate setting, and when it's not a concert venue, anything can happen. They may take requests, they may try something new, and certainly they connect better with the audience. Speaking of intimate settings, Bill, one more time for anybody who just tuned in the last few moments, I want to remind everybody, a week from tomorrow, that'll be June 2nd in San Antonio at the iconic Barn Door Restaurant, which is 8400 North New Braunfels, just inside Loop 410, real close to Nacogdoches in San Antonio. It'll be Bill's book launch event for his book, Stories, Sports, and Songs, Tales and Tunes by a Play-by-Play Lifer. Begins at 4 o'clock, 4 to 5:15 is the book signing, meet and greet, take photos with Bill. 5:15 to 6, Tales and Tunes. Final question, Bill. Do you have the set list yet for what tunes you are going to sing? And if I request Freebird, will you do Freebird?
Freebird is not on the set.
Freebird!
Walking through that door. But my buddy Mike Vasquez, and you've heard me talk about Mike, he basically plays guitar as well as anyone in Austin. He's really, really good. And he knows my songs better than I do. So I've enlisted the help of Mike Vasquez to come down and do some songs with me. Yes, we've done the set list. We're going to have a rehearsal the day or two before that deal. So we'll try to, I just try to stay with Mike. He's such a good guitar player. I just try to say, okay, I know it's my song, Mike. You play it, I'll sing it. How about that? So that's the way we're going to do it. And we'll tell some tunes or tell some tales. Some of them are actually true. And we'll just have some fun, Chris. It's really kind of a laid back, kind of a happy hour soiree type thing, nothing formal. And, we'll just hang out a couple hours, do some songs, and hope to meet some folks out there.
Be very cool. Mark your calendar. It's a week from tomorrow, June 2nd, Barn Door Restaurant, 4 o'clock. And again, Bill will have copies of his book. If you don't have one, copies will be available for sale. And if you want to grab one on Amazon, they can deliver it. If you got Prime like I do, it can be on your doorstep like in 1 or 2 days. You can find his book at Amazon. Just search Bill Schoening, the book, Stories, Sports, and Songs. Bill Schoening, I can't wait for a week from tomorrow, man. It's going to be great fun. We will see you then. And as always, we love talking hoops and music and everything with you. Thanks for taking the time this morning. Thanks so much, Bill.
Thanks, Chris and Shannon. Thanks again.
Absolutely. Bill Schoening, voice. Thank you. Oh, OJ may even make an appearance. Anything's possible at the Bill Schoening book launch event. All right. Coming up, we will survey the world of sports. We haven't talked a lot of NFL football yet, and that is just a travesty because we love NFL football. We've got some new news on a quarterback in the National Football League from his head coach, a quarterback who is and should be on the market. We will get into that and a lot more. We'll preview tonight's Game 5. This is a big one. What is it, like 82% of winners of Game 5 when it's 2-2 go on and win the series? So you've got Miami hosting Boston tonight in a big Game 5 in a series that's tied 2-2. We'll get into that and a lot more. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Kolok makes the whole show go. With you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Very cool, Jason. I would have said that on the air that you just bought the book if I had seen it. I was on a different screen at the time, so I just saw that. All right. I have to edit a couple of more spots. See, I've got that one. Let me go. This is Diamonds Direct. Right. Check that. I got to go ask the boss man a question. So I'll be back in a sec.
State Farm. Since I'm all about being a good neighbor, I want to let you know that some other car insurance companies are increasing their rates in your state. So it's a good time to check your latest bill. But don't worry, if your bill's gone up and your budget's busted, switch to State Farm for surprisingly great rates. Problem solved. For surprisingly great rates, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or visit statefarm.com for a quote.
All right. Let's see. Oops. Our thanks to Bill Schoening. Let's see. Do I have time? I need to mail these. So let's do that. This is... how's this computer? Let's see. Dean, I would hope there would be a mention of Stan Kelly. I hope there would be a mention of Jay Howard, Terry Stembridge, the original Spurs play-by-play guy. You know, I think, and I really want, I said this, I would love 2 reunions at least. The original San Antonio Spurs at one of the games, have them all honored at halftime or, you know, after the game, kind of like when they raise a jersey into the rafters. And the 99 championship team, have a reunion, bring them back. You know, some of those players have passed away, especially on the original team. But you know, and the first head coach, Tom Nisalke, has passed away. The first, you know, one of the first head coaches, Bob Bass, has passed away. We know Stan Albeck has. I believe Cotton Fitzsimmons has passed away. You know, some great Spurs. Mike Gale passed away, you know, in summer of 2020. Bobby Warren, an original Spur. I've considered Dennis, in this 50th anniversary, because I interviewed James Silas on this show a couple of years ago, and I thought it was fascinating. He was an original Spur. So I've considered maybe doing a podcast and just interviewing because somewhere I interviewed Terry Stembridge, Kobe Dietrich, and Gary DeLon, who's no longer with us, on the radio. I've got the mini disc of that from 15 years ago. Anyway, here we come.
To the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney.
Welcome back. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Kolok making the show go. Our thanks to Bill Schoening, who joined us in the previous segment. And we still got a lot we want to get to in this final half hour. We appreciate your hanging out with us. In fact, one of the things we suggested earlier, and we always suggested, in fact, in addition to dialing us up on the phone lines, which is 800-707-9760, you can always, on the free iHeartRadio app, leave us a talkback message, which is instantaneous. You press the microphone button, you record a message, you send it to us. And I see Jeremy. I don't know if you have. Oh, you do. Okay. I saw the look in your eyes. I thought maybe we didn't have it. Maybe I'm throwing this up.
We did some scrambling. We talked to the team in the back, our technicians and whatnot, and
our crack engineers on crack.
A great team
in the back.
Yes,
on crack in the back. It's very nice. So, all right, Wes Perkins, and I think, and I'm not sure. Wes may have. We've been talking all morning, and we talked at length in the 6 o'clock hour about this horrible tragedy, this mass shooting that took place yesterday in Uvalde, that is just god awful on every level and so tragic. And I know Wes on the live video feed was talking about it with us, so this may or may not be about that, but we did get a talkback message from our friend and regular listener and contributor, Wes Perkins, and here it is.
Good morning. On this somber day after the Uvalde tragedy, one that hits very close to home, as it's very close to where I grew up, in a town that I know all too well. And with an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, nothing sickens me more than to think about harm coming to them. I know that we have to do so many things to tighten up to be a better society, but first and foremost, we have to come to better agreements together as humankind and be rational again. Those things have to occur for us to get better.
Great point by Wes Perkins, who left that talkback message. And Shannon, you mentioned you read the Kyrie Irving tweet. Jeremy read the David Robinson tweet. We played the audio earlier in the show of Steve Kerr, a very emotional, talking about this issue before the Mavericks Warriors game last night. And we are a sports show, but we're very interested. I got a feeling, Shannon, as more people process this, we'll probably be hearing from more major sports figures throughout the day today and the rest of the week. It'll be interesting to get their perspective, and we'll see if it moves the needle, and if anything is done to try to make our lives safer. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's like we said, Kyrie Irving. Probably if he was in one of the games, last night, even tonight's game, he may have said something a little sooner, but it's a lot to process, especially because we keep living through this. And so he has said his couple of words earlier this morning, and you mentioned David Robinson, so I wouldn't be surprised if some more figures start coming out with statements here throughout the morning. And, we, again, if you're joining us late, we talked at length about Uvalde and what it means to each of us and, our feelings in a moment like this. And I know we all have feelings, profound feelings in a moment like this, but, we realize it's a sports show and you come here for sports talk, and we respect that and we appreciate that, and we do our best to deliver on that. And Shannon, I know one of the stories you're tracking, and we haven't talked enough football this morning, so let's dive into the National Football League a little bit. And you're tracking a story involving improving the Pro Bowl and Pro Bowl week, which I think is something certainly the NFL could do. What do we know about that story?
Yeah, the NBA and the NFL, and we talk about it, right? Because it's always that kind of dead week between the last playoff game and the Super Bowl, and so you're sad that football is about to come to an end, so you're taking in all you can, and then there's the Pro Bowl, which is kind of just a fun fest for the guys that get invited, and they get opportunity to play, and there is incentive to play well because they could make money based on whether or not they're on the winning and losing team. But it's just not as far as a football product. More football is good football. But guys don't want to get hurt. They're not really playing their all. There isn't much by the way of defense. It's just not a great product as it is. And I don't know if they need to take notes from the NBA because they have a great All-Star weekend. I don't know if it's just kind of getting rid of the Pro Bowl as an entire thing and coming up with something completely different, but still giving the accolade of being a Pro Bowler out to these players. I mean, they make the point, more football, good football. They still get plenty of eyeballs on that game. Now, compared to regular NFL games, they're next to nothing, but compared to just regular TV that's on at the time, it's still a wide number. But I know someone like me who loves football, but just it can't get into the Pro Bowl. I would support any change that they may come up with. I don't know that I'd have an answer though at this moment as to what that might be. I mean, they tried dodgeball. Did that really work? I don't think so.
Yeah, we got a couple of comments. Dennis LaRue Jr. on the live video feed says the Pro Bowl is horrible. It is unwatchable. Santos Paniagua says it is the Pro Touch Football Bowl. And Shannon and Jeremy, that's one of the unique issues with the Pro Bowl is the NFL is a violent sport. You can play an NBA All-Star game and the players just don't play a lot of defense and don't hit each other as hard. It's harder to do that in football and in pads when you got to tackle somebody to the ground. And the baseball All-Star game, it's not necessarily as dangerous to play a baseball All-Star game as it is the NFL. Jeremy, if the NFL called you and said, what can we do to improve the Pro Bowl itself or the Pro Bowl week, what would you have to say to them to make the experience better and therefore more marketable?
I don't know. It's difficult, Chris, because you mentioned the unique aspect of the NFL and football specifically, but that's the appeal, right? We tune in generally to football because of its violence, for lack of a better word. That's like what sets it apart from other sports and the risk factor and the incredible athleticism. So it's unfortunate because with the NBA, there's still a way for that athleticism to be displayed without the risk factors being as high as, an intense playoff game. And obviously football is completely different, but I don't know how you can mimic that. And in attempting to mimic that, it's boring. It's unwatchable. Like we said, I don't watch the Pro Bowl. And it's also the scheduling, like Shannon said. I think step one is finding a new time for it in this. And it's so weird because you can't put it in the middle of the season like the MLB and the NBA because the injury risk, but that's when the hype is the highest. You know what I mean? That's when we're thinking about the sport. That's when we're in the season, when even though we still have the Super Bowl at the end of the season, it's like a come down when the playoffs start to thin out and we have, like Shannon mentioned, that gap. It doesn't feel like the right place, that gap between the conference championship and the Super Bowl. It doesn't feel like that. It seems like they kind of just squeeze it there because that's where they had room for it, but it doesn't feel like the correct place for it. I don't know where you put it, but it's so boring at that point in the season.
Yeah, Shannon, I see a comment here from Richard on the live video feed. He says, open the field up and play 7-on-7. I mean, it's 7-on-7, such a big deal now with younger developing athletes in high school. Obviously you would have to honor the defensive players and honor the offensive linemen. Yeah. But maybe there's a way to have multiple competitions, and maybe it's almost like an Olympics where it is still AFC versus NFC or whatever it is. But maybe 7-on-7 is part of it. Maybe it's a multi-night thing, and maybe Shannon, you and Jeremy are gamers. Maybe part of it is each conference or however you divvy up the teams, maybe one of them is indeed a Madden game, a big time Tom Brady on one side versus Patrick Mahomes on the other, and it's all for bragging rights, and for the team that wins the whole thing wins more money than the other team, and obviously players are going to want to get more money, so maybe they'd be into it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an experiment because I don't know if the numbers they're getting for that Pro Bowl game are because people are like, well, it is football, or if they're actually interested in the characters and personalities that come out more at an environment like the Pro Bowl. Because if that's the case, then you can kind of get away with trying anything and everything until something sticks. But if people are actually tuning in because they want to watch a football game, then they're somehow going to have to keep that game in, and whether or not they maybe go like a Harlem Globetrotters route of, trying new rules and new ways to do things, and maybe you get points for this instead of like actually, I don't know. But 7-on-7, I like the idea, but I think, because it is a Pro Bowl and you're naming players from every position, I don't know that they'd go that route.
Yeah. You would think that the NFL is otherwise so powerful and so marketable, and it is the biggest thing on the sports landscape. It's amazing that the NFL is having a difficult time getting this right. Speaking of the NFL, Shannon, we do want to mention this. We are getting closer. And here's something that maybe they could add. Golf.
Yeah.
The match with Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen is coming up. We're just days away from it. Heck, I'm going to tune into that. And part of the reason is those are big names: Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen. Maybe they take a page from something like this. And part of the fun for me is they're going to be mic'd up for sound. Yeah. I'm interested in the banter as much as I am the golf itself.
Yeah, you have the AFC, NFC. It's the Super Bowl of golf, old versus new. And then on their teams, they're obviously from the same division. And Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers go way back, and that kind of what I think, at least on the outside looking in, is a friendly rivalry. And then Patrick and Josh Allen, who have such a great, just friendly relationship. There's a lot of storylines. I don't care what Andy Everett says. I think it'll be interesting. How much it holds my interest will be based on how lively they get with those mics on and how good their golf game is.
Yeah, and we love Andy, and Andy will be on the show tomorrow. But I think Andy, and I'll say this to I think Andy is a golf snob. If it's not a big-time PGA player, he doesn't want to watch it. And Andy goes on golf vacations to Scotland. So why can't I don't get it. We'll ask Andy tomorrow on the show. Why Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen? That's must-see TV for me. Mahomes? Absolutely. Somebody did say, I did like this. Dean Stone, Shannon, on the live video feed says more smack talk before the Pro Bowl game to hype it up. Maybe even if we have multiple competitions, we should have a smack talking competition that will be judged by comedians. You could get Chris Rock and Ricky Gervais and other. And how about a smack talking competition? I could go for that.
It's almost like the mean tweets thing that they do on Kimmel.
Yes.
Right. Which sometimes they do have an NFL version. I could see that, maybe guys going after each other that way.
Got to be a way. Got to be a way to turn it around. All right. Before we get out of here, Shannon, you are the new Nostradamus of sports talk radio. Your prophecy of Golden State beating Dallas 4-1 about to come true. A big one tonight in Miami, 2-2 in the series. Boston Celtics at the Miami Heat. Shannon, who do you like in that one?
Oh gosh, it's a bit of a toss-up. I still like the Celtics. I dare I say they may be healthier than the Heat at this point, but I don't know. But if the Heat get off to a start like they did last game, I mean, they'll just go ahead and put it in writing, Celtics.
Yeah, how can they have two just god-awful ice-cold starts in a row, especially now that this one is in their house? Jeremy Kolok, Celtics Heat tonight. You have watched more NBA playoffs than Shannon or I have this playoff go around. Who do you like in that one?
Yeah, I don't know how anybody could possibly predict what's going to happen after what we've seen. But, I'll attempt to. Like Shannon said, it's a toss-up, and I'm sticking with my Heat in 7. I think they're going to win this game tonight and then eventually win in 7. But they got to win this one first. Very important.
Yeah, didn't Shannon and I have Boston in 6?
Boston in 6.
Well,
Yes, sir.
Shannon could she's nailed 2 legs so far of the Triple Crown. She could nail both of these NBA series. It's getting a little scary. Dennis LaRue Jr. says Boston in a close one tonight. I go with home teams, even though it doesn't always work. I go with home teams in the playoffs. So I think the Miami Heat will win tonight. We shall see. Shannon Salty Sweeney, outstanding as always. We'll do this again in 21 hours.
I'll be here for it.
Oh, cool. That's always good. That's always
Yeah.
convenient that you show up. Unlike CD Lamb, Jeremy Kolok, excellent job as always, sir.
Thank you, sir. Be here tomorrow.
Let's do this again tomorrow. As Kinky Friedman would say, why the hell not? We will see you in 21 hours. Our thanks to the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening, and our love and our prayers to everybody involved in that horrible, senseless tragedy in Uvalde. We'll be thinking about you a long, long time. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. All right. Y'all have a good day. We will see you in 21 hours. We appreciate your being here. As always, we do. See you tomorrow.